everybody, my name is Megan Stratikopoulos. I'm one of the volunteer co-chairs for the Stronger Together Kelowna event being held on June 2nd at the Rotary Centre for the Arts. Thought this would be a good time to tell you a little bit more about the face behind the Facebook page, or at least one of the faces, and let you know why it's so important for me to be a part of this cause. So, I am the mother of two beautiful daughters. You might even hear them in the background. And with both of those daughters, I suffered from some level of postpartum depression. With my first daughter, I suffered from mild postpartum depression, but I was a new mom, so I figured, okay. But in any event, I went and I got some counseling, and I learned some great techniques that have helped me throughout my life. So when 3.5 years later, I got pregnant with my second baby, I wasn't worried at all about having postpartum depression. You know, I was in a great place physically, I was in a great place mentally. It wasn't a concern of mine at all. It was about a year to the day in 2015 that I realized that my postpartum depression journey was about to begin. And I realize it now in hindsight, probably not at the time, but it definitely started around this day in 2015. I was 7 weeks pregnant with my youngest daughter, and I was driving home from work, and I began to bleed quite heavily. I called my doctor's office, and my doctor's office recommended that I call the ambulance as I was driving and I could lose a lot of blood. And I did so. I was transported via ambulance to the hospital, where I sat and I waited for an emergency ultrasound tech to tell me if I had lost the baby. I was fairly certain, based on the severity of the bleeding, that I did lose the baby. It was a few hours later that the ultrasound technician came in and told us that there was a heartbeat, but unfortunately it was going to be very touch and go for the first trimester and probably until about 18 weeks. So that is kind of when the hypervigilance started, the anxiety. Every time I had another episode or anytime I was feeling unwell, usually with your second pregnancy, you're a little more confident in the things that happen when you're pregnant, but with this pregnancy, I was consistently anxious that I was losing the baby. Even after my doctor had said to me, you know, you're out of the woods, things are fine. So when I gave birth to a very healthy baby girl, full term, I was ecstatic. The first few weeks after having her were great. I mean, 9 days after I gave birth to her, I did a contracts law exam. It was just something that I was just going to do. I wasn't worried about postpartum depression. I was worried about finishing my education and continuing on with my career and you know, making sure that I got my body back in shape and my jeans fit. I wasn't at all for the first few weeks considering the fact that things could really go sideways here. Once you get out of the baby blues, you're good, right? You're fine. So she was born a few weeks before Christmas. Christmas came and went, and it wasn't until Boxing Day, until she was maybe about 3 weeks old, that I started to notice that things weren't quite what I imagined them to be. She was colic, she had reflux, and for those of you mamas who've been through that, you know, 3 weeks is kind of when things start to ramp up. So she was crying a lot. I had a, preschooler at home. The kind of buzz of Christmas was gone, and I couldn't pull myself out of bed. I couldn't even go to the grocery store. I was terrified. I was terrified every time she cried. I was terrified every time she didn't sleep right. And even when things were great, I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't eat. I couldn't breastfeed. I couldn't function. I remember my husband taking me to the grocery store. I needed him home all the time. He had to take so much time off work because I just needed him with me. I was terrified. And if it wasn't him, it was a really good friend of mine that basically had to move in because I was so terrified. Even when I could sleep, I was having cold sweats, and I was thinking about how was I going to handle the next second, minute, hour. My husband took me to the grocery store, and I don't even think I saw shapes. I didn't see people. I didn't hear voices. It was a murmur and a blur and a buzz, and it was around that time, and at the point where I couldn't get up in the morning without crying or just wishing that I was dead, that I realized, I think I need to do something about this. This is all to say that postpartum depression doesn't present itself in the way that you think it's going to. It isn't, the deranged woman driving a van off a cliff with her children inside. Yeah, of course it can be that way, but that isn't what it is. It's the woman who almost lost her baby, who should be feeling gratitude that this miracle baby had entered the world healthily, but is feeling so much guilt and so much regret over the decisions that she's made to have these children. It's the woman that is finishing her education, that she's still getting, B pluses and A's on her exams, but she can't even get up in the morning. It's months down the road, it's years down the road, it's all these feelings that, no one ever talks about that just aren't okay and aren't normal, and you don't have to live that way. So I've made it so far past this journey. My youngest daughter is now, again, 3.5, and I've done a lot of work on the way, and it was time for me to pay it forward. So that is why myself and my co-chairs have created the Stronger Together Kelowna initiative to fundraise in support of Canadian Mental Health Association Kelowna, because not only is this a topic that isn't spoken about enough, but it's a topic that is desperately needing some resources. And what better way to do that than get a bunch of families in a room, watch an incredible, powerful documentary on postpartum depression. You'll get to hear from survivors like myself. You'll get to hear more about my journey from where I was those days to where I am today and all the details in between. You'll get to hear from some professionals, and hopefully you'll get to take home some swag as well, something just to kind of make your days a little easier, because it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to raise a mother and a family. So yeah, that is why we do what we do, and that is why I'm so excited to have you guys on board. For more details, click the event link in the page here, or reach out to myself, Pam, or Katrina as co-chairs. We're very, very excited for this event, and we can't wait to see you out there. It was nice to meet you guys, and you'll be hearing more from me in the future. Take care. Bye.